Fine. So let me go for open the Anaconda Navigator once. So let's look what are the things we done in a previous class and what are the topics as of now what we done. If you look at then we will know it actually. Okay. So now we can launch the Jupyter Notebook. So the last class is it's a files concepts, right? So file handling, models and packages are there, exception handling is done, right? Someone is joined with the name of okay. Fine. I think Akhil has already joined with a different name.
Yeah, that is Akhilesh. He will join as Ustad and then he will change his name as Akhil.
Yeah. So as of now, functions has done, files handling is done, models and packages is done, exception handling is also completed, right?
Yes.
No, so from the Python concepts, almost 70% has done. Okay, so nothing much, some control statements, functions, and models and packages, files, file handling, exception handling. Okay, this is a part of so Python programming language only. So almost 70% is done. So next will be we need to go for understanding the object-oriented programming language. So OOPS concepts. So if I done the OOPS concepts, then regular expressions is if I done the OOPS concept, then I can stop the classes. I mean, I can stop the Python classes. So regular expressions and database connectivity with help of the Python, then I can explain when I done my SQL classes. So today I would like to go for understanding the OOPS concepts from the Python programming language. So here today date is 10/20/22 and Python OOPS concepts. See, what is OOPS? What is mean that OOPS? Is there anyone know it? What exactly the object-oriented programming language? OOPS means object-oriented programming language. OOPS means what? Object-oriented programming language. So which means the programming language which is work with the base on the object concepts only. Okay. See, at what basis the programming language is object-oriented programming language. So there are multiple options are there. So why the Python is object-oriented programming language? So the programming language which is having the following features. What are the features? Method overloading, okay, and method overriding, okay, or else operator overriding and overloading. So operator overloading and operator overloading and operators overriding. Okay, next one is data hiding. So when you are hiding the data, so that is if any programming language is following the data hiding concept, that we are calling it say oops. Okay, next one is data encapsulation. Data encapsulation. Okay, and the fifth one is polymorphism, and sixth one is inheritance. See, if any programming language which is following the method overriding, overloading, operator overriding and overloading, data hiding, data encapsulation, polymorphism and inheritance, if any programming language is following the this kind of features, then that particular programming language we can call it say object oriented programming language. Clear?
Yeah.
Yep. See, if you want to, if any programming language is following the oops features, the only reason is Okay, the only reason is, okay, which is having the two components. So any programming language which is having the, okay, this particular two components, so then that particular programming language can be object oriented. It can be following the, it can be possible the object oriented programming language features. What are those two components? The first one is the class and the second one is the object. Okay, so if any programming language is having the two components, which is the class and object, if that particular programming language can be possible this particular features. If any programming language is following this particular feature, the only reason is that which is having these two components. Okay, so let's go for understanding the what is class, and then let's go for understanding the what is object. So tell me, what is class? Do you have any idea about the class?
Yeah, class is something that has skeleton to it. The thing is like the
Template, absolutely correct. It's a template. See, I just give a small project for you. Okay. So before we implemented that particular project, so first what you will do? So for example, I just given a particular project for you. So first what you will do? You will create some kind of document, right? Or else you will create some kind of design document, right? Yes or no? So this design document, it will help you what are the features it might be having that particular programming language. I'm just explaining actually. So what exactly importance of the class in a Python programming language? I'm just correlated with the real things actually. For example, if you want to build one particular project, okay, then first you have to create one particular document. Then if the document is if the document is okay, if it can be okay, it if the document is fine, then they will start implementation of the project or not. What features are there in this particular design document? So the same feature we are going to implementing in this particular project or not? Yes or no? So here the document which is giving the characteristics or properties or features of the project. So here the design document is the class, and when you build the project with the base of the design document, that we are calling its object. Okay. For example, we have one more example. This is one example for okay, class and object. For example, you want to start construct one particular building, okay, school. Okay, you want to build one particular school building. See, before we build this particular school, first what we will do, we will create some planning, right? You will create some planning or not? First you will do the some planning, and the planning will be accepted by other people or other engineers. Then they will start implementation of they will start the construction of that particular building or not? See, the planning or the structure, that we are calling it same class. Okay, when we are constructed that particular building, then the building is object. So here the planning, it cannot be visible, and moreover it won't take any memory actually. But when you are constructed the building, then it will occupy some space or not, and moreover it can be visible and you can touch it. So simply, class means class means it's a logical thing, logical entity. Class means it's a logical entity. When it comes to the object, which is a physical entity, the reason is that physically we can view and we can touch, but planning, just in imagine, we just write in some paper, and so with help of that particular planning, we can able to build the projects, or we can build the objects, or we can build the some kind of school, like something like this. See, with the same planning, you can create one more building also, right? With the same planning, you can create one more building also, right? See, with the same planning, you can build the multiple objects or some multiple schools, something like that. Just giving an example. Okay. So one more time, I would like to explain you what exactly the class. A class means it's a logical entity of an objects. So whatever the objects we have it for that particular objects, which is creating some kind of logical entity, that we are calling it say class, or else structure of an objects. or else template of an objects. See, logical entity or structure a template for an object that we are calling it's a class. Something we can see physically or touch that we are calling it's a object. So for now, let's talk with Akhil. Akhil, tell me what is class and what is object?
So,
Akhil?
class is something, it's like a plan or a skeleton where you have a
Absolutely
logic.
correct. Skeleton. Yes, that's nice word. Okay, skeleton. Okay, logical entity of an object. Okay, or of an objects or structure or templates or skeleton for an objects that we're calling it's a class. Okay, see, object means physically you can, so physical entity for classes, physical entity of a class that we are calling it's a object. That means you can create the class if and only if you create the class, then only objects can be created. So if you want to create the object, first of all you should create the class. Once if you creating the class, you may creating the multiple objects or not. Okay, so with a single class or with the same class, the same a class, we can create multiple objects. Okay, clear? And so log a class, it won't occupy the memory, so you can simply say that it's a no memory. Okay, we don't need the memory to creating the class. But you know what, if you want to create the object and it could be occupy the memory location, so memory is needed. Memory is needed, but in case of class we don't need the memory actually. Okay, and one thing about the class means it's a collection of attributes. Everything could be attribute inside of the class. Simply you can say that it's a collection of and attributes. So here attributes are, again, two things are there. So variables are the attributes only. You can implement the variables inside of the class. Meanwhile, functions, even functions also, it's a attributes of the class, but usually functions we're calling as a methods in Python. Okay, so methods and variables are the attributes, so collection of attributes inside of the class. So and so that it's a logical entity, and with just having a structure of the object only, with help of that particular structure we can creating the multiple objects. Let me go for creating a class. So if you want to creating the class, we can have a class keyword and followed by the class name. So the class name which always start with a capital letter. It's a good practice actually. So it just to remind you, or it just to identify that particular name, whether it is the class or whether it is object. So classes, if you started with a capital letter, then if the new guy can understood, okay, this is the class, it's not a method or it's not a function, it's not the variable. Okay, because of variables, functions, classes, everything, it could be identifiers only, right? Okay, so class name, and inside of it we can creating the attributes. So here I created the variable, for example 123, and meanwhile I can creating the method, and the method it can be performing the any one of the task, right? So for example, the task which is doing the printing that particular variable. Okay, so what data we have in that particular variable, I want to print it. Okay, now let's look this particular program. So this is the way we can creating the class, right? So this is one attribute and this one also one attribute. So basically the class with just consisting only attributes, nothing else. Now I want to creating the object. So how we can able to create the object? So object means for any name we can assigning the class name. For any name you are assigning the class name with open parenthesis and closed parenthesis. This way you are creating the object here. Your object is obj. Okay, your obj object was created with help of the class. So for example, I want to creating the one more object. So I already told you, right, with the same class you can creating the multiple objects. So this is the way we can write, we can implement the, or we can creating the multiple objects with the same class. Clear? See, we are not getting any kind of error here. It was executed successfully. It was executed successfully. You just creating the class, and within the class you have variables, and we are going to be printing, or we are printing that variable var with that particular function when I'm calling. Okay, but when you are creating the, when you are creating the object, so by the time of object here, it is allocated the memory for this particular structure. You allocated the memory, and with that particular memory location we have the variable var, and we are defining one particular method, and here we creating the one more memory location. Okay, with that memory location we are giving the name is object2, and with that particular memory location also we have the same data and same functions. Okay, so if you want to print the, what could be the object, if you want to print the object1, so simply we can use the obj1. So this is the way, what are the what are the objects you created, after that one you just print the what could be the objects here. Okay, so object1, object2 and object3 are the names, and which is storing in some memory locations, and this could be the memory location. So this is one memory location, this is one memory location, this is one memory location. Here I created the three variables or three objects, so that three memory locations are created. So within this particular memory location, within this particular memory location, what content we have it, which is creating the variable var, and so it is a 123, and we creating the one particular task, and which can be printing that particular var. So this is the memory location, this is 086274F0. Within this memory location we are giving this particular information, or we are creating this particular okay, so variable and classes, variable and methods within this particular memory location. Now you created the object2, right? Inside of the object2 also, and the object2 also can be created with the help of the same class, so that with this particular memory location we created one more okay, memory space, and within that particular memory space, and you are having the var is 123, and you defining the same function and task, and which is printing the, okay, which is printing the var, and you created one more object, right? When you are creating the one more object, then one more memory location has created. Within the memory location, the value defining from this particular class, we are accessing this information, and we are storing into this particular memory location. See, this is my class, it doesn't have the memory, but with help of this one you creating the three objects, so that with the three different memory location with the same information I stored here. Is it clear my point? What is happening in this particular situation? Akhil, Raj, Srilekha, Pavani, is there any question?
No, I don't have any questions.
Okay, so as of now you understood the how we can creating the class and how we can create the object, right? So once object is created, the memory can be created, and within the memory location what information we have in class, the same information can be copy and paste. Now I want to be print the data. I want to be print the data of the this var. Okay, and this is the var, which is the class variable. So this is the class variable, this class variable, okay, so we're assigning to the object, so that if you want to access this particular class variable from the object, make sure that we should use the object name dot class variable name or attribute name. So meanwhile, after you creating the object, and I want to be access the value of the var, and after you creating the object3, I want to go for accessing the var of object3. So but by the three situation, the var is 123 only, so that we are getting the 123 123 123. Okay, so as of now, no issue here. For example, I want to be modify the data in object1. Is it affected for the object2 or not? 100% it won't be affected, because of object2 is different memory location, object3 is different memory location, right? So that if you modifying the object1 of the var, instead of the 123, if I stored as 500, it won't be affected for other variables. If you want to check it, we just check it. Okay, so var1, var2 and var3. So var1 is updated from 123 to 500. var3 and var2, it could be the 123 only var1 as updated. Okay, so that, so var1 of object1 object1 of var is 500 after you modify it, but object2 and object3, the value of var which is not modified, because of object1, object2, object3 are the different memory locations. Is it clear my point?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, now, so this is the way you can able to access the class variables with help of the objects. And if you want to modify the class variables data with help of the object also, we can do it. But if you modify the class variables data with help of the object, so it can be affected only that particular object only. It won't be affected for the other objects. That's the conclusion. Now I would like to go for the instead of the printing the var, I want to print this particular var from this particular function. Okay, so simply what you should do, you can simply call the task, right? But if you want to call the task, then make sure that object1 dot and function name we have to mention. Okay, so meanwhile, so if you want to call the task function from the object2 and task function from the object3, just look what could be happen here. So here you might be getting the error. What error we are facing here? Task function takes 0 position argument, but arguments, but one was given. That means actually from the function call, you have to send the 0 number of arguments, because of you defining this particular task with 0 number of arguments. But here, which is mentioning the error is, so argument issue. So actually you should receive the only 0, but you given 1. That means here what happens, whatever the object you're giving as a prefix, okay, whatever the object you're giving is a prefix, this is the thing, it can be sending as the argument for this particular task. And this is the same object, it can be sending as the, okay, argument for this particular task. The same object3 also can be sending as the argument of this particular task. Okay, so that what I will do now, I can hold a small argument. You just defining a small argument, any name you can use it, for example object. Okay, object. So see, name error, let me give name. Okay, object1. So you can give any name or object variable. Okay, just give any name, just I'm using the object variable. That means this is object variable. If I'm calling the task function from the object1, this object1 information will be holding into this one. If I'm calling the task function from the object2, this object2 information or this object2 data will be holding into this particular variable. And when we are giving object3, this particular variable data will be, this object3 will be holding into the object variable. Okay, but here the error is name error. What is the error? Var is not defined, but you define it, right? You define it or not? Var is 123, you define it, right? But if this is the variable, if you want access inside of the methods, so make sure that whatever the argument we have it, whatever the first argument we have it, that particular argument, it can be prefix for that. Whatever the argument name you used as the first, that it could be the before the variable you should use it. Okay, so you just copy and you can paste here, and so this is object variable, we can copy and we can paste and we can dot here. So now 123 or not? See, here you define it as the var 123, but But if you want to access this same variable inside of the method only, it requires at least one argument. So I just created one argument. This is the argument you should give you as a prefix of the class variable, then only you can able to access. I already told you, right? This object variable, which is holding the object1 information, object2 information, and object3 information, right? So is it really storing the object1 information, object2 information, object3 information? If you want to know it, simply you just print argument1. So argument1, whatever we have it, that I want to be printed. Okay, before printing, before you calling that particular function, I want to print the object1, and I want to print the object1. Same way, I want to print the object2 before calling, and object3 before calling of the task3 of the object. Okay, see here, it could be object2, and you just print the object2, and here also object3 you can print, and you can print the object3. See, what information we have it? Is it same or different? Is it same or different? Akhil, can you please observe here? So this is the print statement was printing this one. Okay, this is the memory location. With this particular memory location, you hold at this particular class information. Okay, now you are calling the task one, right? Sorry, you're calling the task, right? When you're calling, this is object one, will be holding into the object variable. So whatever the data we have it in object one, same data will be there in the object variable. So that's the reason here also we are getting the same result. And you creating the object 2, and you are printing the object 2 information, and you calling that same function, and which is printing the object variable information in, right? So even the function is same, but every time you're calling with different objects, so that for different object variables data you are or different object memory locations we are printing over here. Okay, so is there any questions what exactly the object variable is holding it? But usually instead of every time object variable, so we have some variable name. It is a self means itself. Okay, so whatever the object you calling, that can be will be there here. So self is the good practice for every time. Okay, self is the good practice. Self is the good practice for every time. Self is always holding the first argument. Self we have to define as the first argument of the method, and which is holding always object information from where it is called. Clear? Pavani, is there any questions?
Clear.
No, I don't have any questions.
So just a quick one on the task method.
Yes.
Say if that function needs some arguments.
Yes.
So do I need to specify self comma those arguments, or like?
If you want to specify the 1 or 2 arguments, then definitely you can specify the normal functions only. Let's do some example. Okay, for example, while you're calling this task function, I want to send some data from the function definition, from function call. For example, from here I want to send the 10, here I want to send the 20, here I want to send the 30. Okay, so one argument I am sending, right? So default, this is the self is always holding the object 1, but this is the 10 has to be receiving into any one of the variable only, any one of the argument, right? So that's the reason you should defining the one variable. You should defining the one variable. So for example, that is a name. Okay, or else we can just give the argument 1. Okay, so this is argument 1. Self is not the argument 1, which is the object information. So argument 1 is the argument of the argument 1 of the task. Clear my point?
Yeah.
Okay, see, 10 is printing, so I don't want to print every time this object what it is. Okay, so it's meaningless for every time. Already know this information, then meaningless. If you don't know, it's a correct. See, you can just try to observe here within this particular memory location, you have a 10 with argument 1. Within this particular memory location, you're sending the 20, and through this particular function call, you're sending the 20. So 20 is printing with help of the argument 1. For example, I want to send the two more arguments. Okay, so two more arguments, argument 3 and argument 2 and argument 3. But here you sent the 10, 20 and 30. But here you just sent only 50 and for example 70. But here you just only 100 you sent it. Okay, so careful observe here. You defining the three arguments except self. Okay, so which means you have to be send the minimum three arguments. So from the function definition or method call, so here we are sending the three arguments. So this 10 will be holding into the argument 1, 20 will be holding into the argument 2, 30 will be holding into the argument 3. But when comes to here we are sending only two arguments, but you specified as the 3. So this 50 will be holding into the argument 1, 70 will be holding into the argument 2, but argument 3 has to be receiving the one argument, but you're not sending. So this time you will be getting an error. Only till here only we can execute. Clear? So how we can overcome that particular issue? So we are so I want to print the argument 1, argument 2 and argument 3 also. Okay, so you are sending the 10, 20, 30. So 10, 20, 30 will be holding into that specific arguments, but here you're sending only 2, but you're defining as the 3. So you're getting the error, type error. So the error is one required position argument 3. You're unable to receiving the argument 3. So to overcome that one, when you're when this kind of situations, what you should do, we can go for the default arguments. If you're mentioning the default arguments, what happens? If you're not sending any data, it can be considered default value is the none. So argument 1 50, argument 2 is 70. So argument 3 you're not sent it, so that argument 3 by default it's a none is there. For third object, from the task 1 you're calling, and from the third object you're calling the task function or task method, but you're sending only one argument. Rest of the two automatically it can be assigned as the none. So here we are not getting any kind of type error issue or missing one required position argument issue. Okay, you overcome that one. Clear? So this is the default arguments also you can use at method definitions. It's same like functions. These concepts you already done in a functions concepts. For example, this 10 has to be go for holding into the argument 3. Then you can mention the argument 3 equal to 10. For example, 20 I want to be holding into the argument 1, so that argument 1 equal to 20, and argument 2 I want to be hold it as the 30, so that you just mention this way. Okay, so argument names and corresponding data also you can mention it. For example, 50 I don't want to store in argument 1, I want to store in argument 2, and argument 1 for example argument 3, it could be, if you not mentioned the argument 3, by default it can be argument 3 is a 70 only. Okay, for example this is my argument 3. So careful. Okay. Yes. You should mention, see, argument 3 is the 100, so that here it is 100, rest of the two are the none. So you mention the argument 2 is the 50, argument 3 is the 70, so that last two are this 50 and 70. And here argument 3 is the 10, so that argument 3 is the 10. Argument 1 is the 20, so that here it is the 20. Argument 2 is the 30, so that argument 2 is 30 here. Clear? This is the way. So random, some kind of jumbling data also you can share that. Any questions? Any questions? The way you creating the variables, the way we creating the classes, the way we creating the objects, the way we creating the class variables, and the way we creating the methods and different ways we are calling. Have you seen that particular thing or not?
Yes.
Okay. So is there any questions still here?
No.
No. You know what? By the time of creation of this particular object, automatically one method can be executed. That method we are calling it's a constructor. So we have some special methods are there in Python. We have some special methods. So special methods which always starts with two underscores and ends with two underscores. Okay, any special methods, it can be starts with two underscore and ends with two underscore. Okay, see, let me go for some examples. The first example is constructor. So constructor means, so the constructor method can be executed without calling. So special methods means without calling, the method can be executed. Those methods we are calling it's a special methods. Can executes automatically. So without calling, some methods can be executed automatically. Those particular methods we are calling it's a special methods. If the constructor is the special method, it can be executed when the object is created. When a new object is created. New object is created. Okay, let's see that example. So the special method and user defined method, the difference is very simple thing. So normal methods are normally we can start it, but constructors are always started with two underscores. So underscore underscore. So constructor special methods can be starts and ends with two underscore. Here the constructor is the underscore underscore init underscore underscore. Okay. For example, I want to defining this particular variable, class variable, inside of the init method. So you can define actually. So here the init is the constructor. Here init is the constructor. So whether really constructor is executing or not, if you want to know it, I am constructor. You just print this particular method. Okay. So you just copy the task one and you just comment the task. You can comment this particular task. So here you're not calling any methods. When you are executing this one, 3 times constructor is executed because of 3 objects you created, 3 times the constructor has executed. Clear? 3 times the constructor has been executed because of constructor means it's automatically executed when object is created. So by the time of creation of the constructor, by the time of creation of the object, I want to send some data to the constructor method. Simply we will do it. For example 10, and for example from here 20, from here we want to send the 30. So to receiving that one, we can use the some variable var. Okay, so if you want to access this var from anywhere, so make sure that the self dot we should use it, self dot var. Okay, so if you're sending for example I want to print the self var every time. I want to print the self var. So the self var, if you want to print it, we just use the self dot var. Okay, so now you're sending the 10, right? This 10 will be holding into this particular self dot var, and you can use that particular self dot var from anywhere from this particular class itself. So I can uncomment the object 1 task, object 2 task, and object 3 task. So here, so constructor has created and you're calling the task 1. So when you're calling the task 1, self is printed and self dot var is a global value, so which is always 10. Okay, for that particular entire object. and so you created the second object, and the var is 20 for entire object. That particular var is 20 only, and you're creating the third object, and you're sending the 30. So the 30 will be holding into this particular variable var, and self.var means globally we can access from that particular variable. So this is the way we can creating the constructor, and we can send the data from the class creation to constructor by the time of creation of object. Clear? Any questions? Any questions here?
No.
No. So we have one more special method is there, which is the destructor. So destructor means delete. When you're deleting the object, that specific method can be executed. So for example, we created the object and we call the task 1, and we create the object 2 and we call the task, and we creating the object 3 and we call the task, right? So now I want to be delete the object. When you're deleting, we cannot access the object 1, we cannot access the object 2, we cannot access the object 3 when you deleted. Okay, so when you deleted directly, also we can delete with the help of the del keyword. But so when you're deleting, I want to performing on particular task. For that one, we can creating the destructor, so that the name of the destructor is underscore underscore del underscore underscore. Okay, so here we have to mention the at least one argument. So you can just mention the self object is deleted. So just this content I want to be mention it. Okay, so for example, del of object 1, so obj1, and I want to delete the del of obj2 and del of obj3, right? You deleted 3 objects. See, object is created, and by the time of constructor is executed, manually you call the task so that it was executed, and you creating the object 2 so that constructor again it was executed, and manually you call the task from the object 2 so that we are executing this particular task, and you creating the third constructor, that means third object, so that the constructor is executed one more time, and you call manually task function so that it was executed. See, you deleted the task object 1, object 2, object 3, so that this is the object is deleted. These are the 3 objects are deleted. So this is the method is executed when we are using the del keyword. So when I'm using the del keyword, automatically this is the method only can be invoked. This is the destructor method. Clear? So as of now, we just seen the class variables and methods, class methods and special methods, object and classes. That's a particular part only we understood. If you have any question, please let me know. So tomorrow also we have a object oriented class only, OOPS class only. So we'll try to be finished at OOPS concept by tomorrow session.
Thank you.
Okay, bye, take care.
Thank you.
So guys, I can upload this particular document as well as the corresponding recording into the playlist.
Okay. Thank you.